I never thought I'd be drawn to a beggar standing outside a coffee shop. But this alpha was different. His torn jacket hung loose on broad shoulders, muddy sneakers barely held together with frayed laces, and messy dark hair fell across gray eyes that seemed to hide secrets I desperately wanted to uncover. Yet despite his disheveled appearance, his scent made every omega instinct in my body come alive. Cedarwood mixed with rain-soaked earth, fresh and raw and magnetic in a way that terrified me. Even during my heat cycles, I'd never been this aware of an alpha's presence. I stood behind the counter of the coffee shop, mechanically wiping down surfaces during the afternoon lull. When he walked through the door, his gaze landed directly on me for a few precious seconds, and something in those gray depths made me feel like he recognized me, like we'd met in another lifetime. Then he looked down, ashamed and defeated, shoulders curling inward as if trying to make himself smaller. "Excuse me," he said, voice rough and low, scratching at something deep inside my chest. "Do you have any leftover food? I can work for it. Sweep floors, clean dishes, anything you need." My heart stuttered in my chest, missing a beat entirely. This alpha was begging? Alphas never beg. Society treats them like kings, like gods among mortals. They command respect simply by existing. So why was this man standing before me looking so desperately broke? "Wait here," I said quickly, signaling to my manager across the shop. "Maybe we could spare something. A sandwich or yesterday's pastries. Surely we had enough to help one person." But my manager rushed over immediately, face stern and unforgiving. "Miles, we don't feed strays. Especially not alphas pretending to be helpless for sympathy points." "Pretending?" I whispered, glancing back at the alpha who stood perfectly still, clearly hearing every word. "He looks genuinely starving. Look at him." "They all do. It's a scam to manipulate kind-hearted people like you." My manager pointed firmly toward the door. "Out. Now. Before I call the police." I watched helplessly as the alpha left without another word, without protest or argument. His shoulders sagged lower, defeated in a way that made my omega heart physically ache. But his scent lingered in the air, impossibly strong despite his obvious poverty. Powerful, dangerous, and underneath it all, genuinely vulnerable, like he truly was hurting in ways I couldn't begin to understand. My entire shift felt endless. I served customers on autopilot, smiled mechanically, made small talk that meant nothing. My mind stayed fixated on that alpha, on the pain I'd seen flickering in his gray eyes, on the way he'd accepted rejection so quietly, like he expected nothing less from the world. That kind of resigned suffering seemed too real to be an act. The moment my shift ended, I grabbed my bag and rushed outside, searching the nearby streets. I found him in a narrow alley 2 blocks away, sitting on a flattened cardboard box, clutching his torn jacket against his chest. November cold had already settled over the city, frost forming delicate patterns on the sidewalk. How would he survive the night out here? "Hey," I said softly, approaching carefully so I wouldn't startle him. He looked up and for just 1 second, barely a flash, something predatory and dangerous sparked in his eyes. Pure alpha instinct, protective and territorial. Then it vanished, replaced by bone-deep exhaustion that made him seem ancient despite appearing only a few years older than me. "You shouldn't be here," he said tiredly, voice ragged. "It's not safe for an omega to wander alleys alone. Neither should you be freezing out here with no shelter." I pulled a sandwich from my bag, one I'd bought with my own money and hidden from my manager. I extended it toward him. "Here, please take it." He hesitated, staring at the sandwich like it might disappear if he reached for it, like kindness was some cruel illusion his mind had conjured. Then slowly, carefully, he accepted it. His fingers brushed against mine during the exchange, and I swear electricity shot up my spine, sparks dancing along my nerve endings. The bond potential between us felt almost tangible. "What's your name?" I asked, genuinely curious and drawn to him in ways that defied all logic and reason. "Edward," he answered quietly, still avoiding direct eye contact, as if looking at me might shatter whatever fragile moment we were sharing. "I'm Miles." I smiled despite my heart hammering wildly against my ribcage. This wasn't normal. Feeling such an instant, powerful connection with a complete stranger shouldn't be possible. It felt frightening and exhilarating simultaneously. Edward took one bite of the sandwich, then another. He ate desperately, like someone who hadn't tasted food in days, maybe weeks. Yet his scent remained impossibly strong, too clean and perfectly controlled for someone living on the streets. Homeless alphas typically couldn't afford scent blockers or proper hygiene products. Something about this situation felt off, wrong in ways I couldn't quite identify. "Why are you out here, Edward?" I finally asked, settling down on the cold pavement across from him. "You don't seem like you belong on the streets." "I mean, something about this doesn't feel right." Edward raised his gaze, meeting my eyes directly for the first time. The impact nearly knocked the breath from my lungs. "Because nobody wants me." Those words hit like physical blows, sharp and painful, lodging themselves deep in my chest. "That's not true," I said softly, wanting desperately to believe it myself. 50 omegas, he said bitterly, letting out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. "I've approached 50 different omegas. Every single one rejected me. Some laughed in my face. Others looked disgusted, like I was garbage polluting their space. And a few actually hit me. Physically shoved me away like I was contaminated." My throat tightened painfully. Society teaches omegas to be selective, to test potential alphas, to never settle for less than perfection. But this went beyond caution. This was pure, inexcusable cruelty. "I'm sorry," I whispered, genuinely feeling his pain as if it were my own. "That's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Nobody deserves treatment like that." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt completely exposed, as if he could see straight through to my soul, reading every insecurity and doubt I'd ever harbored. "Why are you being kind to me?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper, fragile and uncertain. "You don't even know me. I could be dangerous." I didn't know how to answer honestly. "Because your scent drives me crazy? Because seeing pain in your eyes makes my omega heart break? Because something inside me desperately wants to protect you?" Instead, something primal overcame me: instinct, emotion, fate, I couldn't say which. I did something I'd never done with any stranger before. I leaned forward and kissed him. Soft, quick, our lips barely touched. But it felt like lightning striking, electricity surging through every nerve ending in my body. When I pulled back, Edward looked completely shocked. His eyes went wide, breath coming in uneven gasps, frozen in absolute disbelief. "Why did you?" "Because you deserve kindness," I said, standing up quickly, suddenly embarrassed by my impulsive action. "Everyone does, even when the entire world says otherwise." Then I walked away rapidly, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest, face burning with heat. But when I reached the corner, I couldn't help myself. I looked back. Edward still stood there, one hand touching his lips gently, as if confirming the kiss had actually happened and wasn't just wishful imagination. His gray eyes stared after me, filled with confusion, hope, and something else I couldn't quite identify. And I knew deep in my heart that this story was far from over. It had only just begun. For 3 agonizing days I couldn't get Edward out of my mind. His scent haunted my thoughts constantly. Cedarwood, rain, and something dark and forbidden that pulled at me relentlessly. Every time I worked my shift at the coffee shop, my eyes automatically drifted toward the door. Waiting. Hoping. I knew it was pathetic. But I couldn't control it. He never came back. Not on day 2. Not on day 3. On the 4th day, as I walked home after my shift, exhausted and disappointed, I saw him again. But this time, everything was different. Completely, devastatingly different. He stood on the corner looking immaculate, clean-shaven, hair professionally styled, wearing an expensive black coat and designer shoes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. This wasn't the homeless alpha I'd kissed in that alley. This was a successful businessman. A CEO. Rich. Powerful. Someone who clearly belonged in boardrooms, not cardboard boxes. My heart dropped painfully. Lies. Betrayal. Everything had been fake. A cruel game I'd been too stupid to see through. "Miles," he said, speaking my name so tenderly it felt like a sacred prayer, stepping toward me with hands raised placatingly. "Don't." I snapped, backing away sharply. "Don't you dare come near me right now. Please let me explain." "Explain what?" My voice shook with anger and hurt twisting together painfully. "That you fooled me? That it was all an act? That you weren't actually homeless, just playing some twisted psychological game?" Edward took one step forward, desperation clear in his expression, But I backed up further. My omega instincts warred inside me. Run away and protect yourself, versus stay and listen. There must be an explanation. Not everything was fake, he said desperately, voice cracking with emotion. Miles, please believe me. That kiss, that moment between us, it was completely real. The most real thing I've experienced in years. Stop talking, I said as tears welled in my eyes, betrayal overwhelming my senses. You used me, like I was some kind of experiment. What was I to you? Just another test subject for your sick social study? No? His voice broke painfully. I needed to discover something. Something critically important to my survival. Discover what? I challenged, crossing my arms defensively, building walls around my wounded heart. If anyone could truly see me, the real person underneath everything. He took a shaky breath, vulnerability radiating from every pore. Not my money, not my corporate power, not my social status. Just the broken, lonely person desperately searching for something genuine. I laughed bitterly, the sound harsh and painful even to my own ears. So your brilliant solution was pretending to be homeless, manipulating innocent people. 50 omegas, Edward. You tested 50 human beings like they were laboratory animals. Do you have any comprehension of how cruel that is? I know, he said, burying his face in his hands, shoulders shaking violently. I know it was morally wrong. I know I hurt people who didn't deserve it. But Miles, listen, society makes everything transactional, everything fake and calculated. Omegas want to marry me because I'm a CEO, because I have wealth, because I wield power and influence. Nobody actually wants me for who I am underneath. They want my bank account, my connections, my ability to elevate their social standing. So lying seemed like the appropriate response? I asked, my voice softening slightly despite my anger, because part of me understood the loneliness he described. I thought, he said slowly, painfully, looking up with red-rimmed eyes, that if someone could accept me when I had absolutely nothing, when I appeared worthless and broken, then maybe, just may, that person would be real. They'd love the actual me, not the monetary value I represent. Pain bloomed in my chest because, somewhere beneath the anger, I understood. Society traps alphas too, in different cages, gilded and comfortable perhaps, but cages nonetheless, still suffocating. You should have told me the truth sooner, I whispered, wiping my eyes roughly. After that kiss, after that connection we felt, you should have trusted me with honesty. I desperately wanted to, he said, meeting my gaze with raw, bleeding emotion. Every time you visited, every time you spoke to me with such genuine kindness, when you kissed me like I actually mattered as a person, I wanted to confess everything. But I was terrified, afraid you'd react exactly like those other 50 omegas, that you'd abandon me the moment you discovered the truth. I'm not like them, I stated firmly, holding his gaze steadily. I've never cared about money or status. That superficial nonsense has never mattered to me. I know, Edward said, taking a shaky breath, hope flickering tentatively in his eyes. That's precisely why I'm standing here now, risking everything, to tell you the truth, to apologize sincerely, and to admit that despite everything, that kiss fundamentally changed my entire world. We stood in silence for several long moments. City lights blinked around us, cold wind carrying his intoxicating scent toward me, still magnetic, still impossibly tempting despite the lies. What exactly do you want from me, Edward? I finally asked, exhausted emotionally and mentally. Edward hesitated, vulnerability written across every feature. Then he spoke slowly, carefully. One genuine chance. That's all I'm asking. A chance for what purpose? To prove that kiss wasn't manufactured. That these feelings consuming me aren't fake or strategic. That what I feel for you is something I've never experienced with anyone else. Something real, Miles. Something that terrifies me precisely because it's so powerfully genuine. My heart raced dangerously fast. My omega instincts screamed conflicting advice. Run away to safety versus stay and risk everything for potential happiness. Trust versus doubt. Security versus possibility. I honestly don't know if I can trust you, I admitted, voice small and uncertain. You lied to me. You deceived 50 other people. How do I know this isn't just another calculated manipulation? Then don't trust me yet, he said, taking one careful step closer, respectful of my boundaries. But give me the opportunity to earn it. Let me demonstrate that I'm not just a manipulative CEO. I'm a person who genuinely wants to deserve your kindness. Who wants to deserve you. I studied his eyes. Gray, stormy, desperate and sincere simultaneously. After taking a long, steadying breath, I finally decided, 1 week. What? 1 week to prove yourself. Show me you're real. No lies, no games, no manipulation tactics. Complete transparency. If you deceive me even once, just once, I'm done. Forever. Edward exhaled in relief, hope spreading across his features. I promise, Miles. Complete honesty from this moment forward. And Edward? Yes, if this is still just an experiment to you, if you're still using me for data collection, then I swear I'll destroy your reputation so thoroughly that no genuine Omega will ever trust you again. He nodded seriously without hesitation. Understood, and I absolutely deserve that threat. I turned to leave, emotions overwhelming my capacity to process them all. But his voice stopped me. Miles? What? Thank you for that kiss. It was the first genuinely real thing I've experienced in years. Maybe in my entire life. I didn't look back, because if I did, I might weaken. I might forgive him without making him truly work for redemption. Don't thank me yet, Edward, I said, walking away steadily. You haven't earned anything. Not even close. But when I reached the corner and glanced back secretly, Edward stood watching me leave, his expression showing determination mixed with something else. Something that resembled hope battling fear. And part of me, the vulnerable Omega part, wanted desperately to run back. But I didn't. Not yet. The next morning, Edward texted me before I'd even finished my coffee. Edward, can I see you today? I want to show you something important. Something completely real. Miles, what is it? Edward, my actual life. No filters or pretending. Just the truth. I hesitated, fingers hovering over my phone screen. This was risky, potentially dangerous even, but I'd given him 1 week, one chance, and I always keep my word, even when it terrifies me. Miles, fine, but somewhere public. I'm not naive. Edward, I'll pick you up at 2, and Miles, thank you for not giving up on me. When Edward arrived in his car, expensive but understated, clearly quality without being ostentatious, he looked genuinely nervous. This powerful CEO suddenly appeared vulnerable and uncertain, almost fragile. Where are we going? I asked, settling into the passenger seat cautiously, maintaining emotional distance. My penthouse, he said, then quickly added when he saw my expression change. But not for anything inappropriate, I swear. I just want to show you where I actually live. Who I actually am when nobody's watching. There are security cameras throughout, a doorman downstairs. You'll be completely safe. I give you my word. I nodded slowly, still wary. All right, but any wrong move, I know you'll leave and I'll never see you again. He looked at me seriously. I won't risk losing you. Not after finally finding something real. His penthouse was absolutely stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Marble floors reflected light like mirrors, and a crystal chandelier hung overhead that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything screamed wealth and success and power. This is overwhelming, I admitted honestly, walking inside slowly, taking everything in. It's beautiful but also somehow cold, Edward finished quietly. Empty, lifeless. I turned to him in surprise. You feel that way too? I hate living here, Edward confessed, vulnerability clear in his voice. This place feels like a cage, golden and expensive. Yes, but still a prison. I only stay here because society expects it. It looks successful from the outside. But honestly, I'm completely alone here, always have been. He led me to his private study, and this room felt entirely different. Personal, genuine. Shelves overflowed with books, philosophy, poetry, and surprisingly romance novels. You read romance? I asked, picking up a well-worn paperback, slightly teasing despite my lingering hurt. A powerful alpha CEO reads romance novels. Edward actually blushed. His cheeks turned pink, and he looked away bashfully. It's probably stupid. People would mock me mercilessly if they knew. No, I said softly, flipping through the clearly loved pages. It's not stupid at all. It's beautifully human, real. He looked at me with surprise and relief mixing in his expression. I wanted to understand what real love feels like. In novels, people get accepted unconditionally, with all their flaws and mistakes. I desperately wanted that. Still do. My throat tightened with emotion. This alpha, powerful, wealthy, feared by hundreds, was so desperately lonely that he'd searched for love in fiction. It broke something inside my chest. Edward, I said carefully, you'll find love. The real kind. I genuinely believe that. With you? He whispered, hope and fear warring in his eyes. I couldn't answer. Not honestly. Not yet. The hurt still felt too fresh, too raw. To break the uncomfortable silence, Edward changed subjects. Let me show you something else. Something nobody else knows about. The next day, he brought me to his company, Sterling Enterprises, a massive glass building with his logo gleaming prominently in the sunlight, announcing his success to the world. Security immediately saluted when they saw Edward. Employees straightened automatically, nervous and respectful. Some even looked terrified of disappointing him. Mr. Sterling, an assistant said nervously, clutching a tablet like a lifeline. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Cancel it, Edward said firmly without any hesitation. Reschedule for tomorrow afternoon. Today I'm spending time with someone far more important than any business meeting. The assistant's eyes widened in shock. So did mine. You just canceled a board meeting for me? I asked once we were alone in his private elevator, ascending toward the top floor. Yes, he said, looking at me with complete sincerity. Because you're more important than any meeting. Meetings happen constantly, but earning your trust? This opportunity is limited and precious. My heart flipped traitorously. Damn him and those sincere gray eyes that made my defenses crumble. He took me to the building's rooftop garden. Hidden, private, breathtakingly beautiful. Fresh roses, jasmine and lavender filled the air with natural perfume. City noise felt muted here, distant and peaceful. I come here when everything becomes too much, Edward admitted, sitting on a stone bench beneath a flowering trellis. When expectations suffocate me, when loneliness becomes unbearable. This is my secret place. Nobody else knows it exists. Not even my personal assistant. Why show me this? I asked, sitting beside him carefully, maintaining some distance. Your most private sanctuary? Because you demanded complete honesty. No hiding. He met my gaze directly. This is who I really am. Miles, a powerful CEO who gets panic attacks. Someone who finds peace and flowers in silence. Someone who's desperately lonely despite being surrounded by hundreds of people daily. And someone who feels more genuine happiness from your smile than from any multi-million-dollar deal I've ever closed. I looked away, overwhelmed by such raw honesty pouring from someone society told me should be invulnerable. I'm not asking you to love me, he said quickly. I know I hurt you badly. I just want the chance to show you that beneath all the lies and manipulation, there's a person who genuinely cares, who wants to become better, who wants to deserve you. You're making this really difficult, I admitted quietly, playing with a lavender sprig nervously. Difficult to hate me, difficult to not fall for you completely. I finally looked at him directly, and that terrifies me because I don't know if I can trust these feelings. I don't know if you're still playing some elaborate game. Edward inhaled sharply. Miles, I swear on everything I have, everything I am, this is real. You are real to me, the most real thing in my artificial world. I stood up, needing physical distance to think clearly. I need more time. Please understand that. Take whatever time you need, Edward said, standing but not approaching, respecting my boundaries. I'll be right here, waiting as long as necessary. His eyes showed hurt, raw and real and painful, but also understanding, patience, respect. That evening, Edward sent me an address with a simple message. Please come. I have something to show you. Something I think you'll truly understand. When I arrived at the location, I stopped breathing entirely. It was the same alley where we'd first met. But now, a small shelter stood there. Newly constructed, clean, welcoming. Hope House was painted carefully on a sign above the door. Edward stood outside, looking nervous and hopeful simultaneously. What is this? I asked, approaching slowly, hardly believing what I was seeing. Your kindness inspired me, Edward said softly. I thought about how 50 Omegas rejected me. how they made me feel worthless. But you kissed me when I had nothing. You treated me like a human being. So I decided maybe I could give something back. This shelter is for homeless alphas and omegas. Free food, shelter, medical care, and job training. So nobody has to experience the pain I faked. So real homeless people get actual help. Tears filled my eyes, emotion overwhelming every defense I'd carefully constructed. You created this because of me, because of you, Miles. You showed me what genuine kindness looks like, what humanity means, and I never want to forget that lesson. I wanted to hug him, to cry, but instead I said carefully, "You're breaking down my walls, Edward Sterling. One brick at a time." He smiled softly, hopefully. "Good, because I want to be with you without any walls, without guards, just us, real and honest." And in that moment, when he carefully, respectfully took my hand, gentle, asking silent permission, I knew something fundamental had shifted between us. I was already falling, and it was both terrifying and beautiful. On the fourth morning, I woke knowing something was terribly wrong. A familiar ache pulsed through my lower abdomen. Restless energy crawled beneath my skin like insects. And Edward's scent, which normally lingered pleasantly in the background of my thoughts, suddenly overwhelmed my senses completely. Even though he wasn't anywhere near me, I could smell him as if he stood right beside my bed. My heat was starting. Early, unpredictable, and terrifyingly intense. I cursed under my breath, panic rising in my chest. Heats had always been agonizing and isolating experiences for me, because I was single, unmated, alone. Society expected omegas to spend their heats with bonded alphas, safely cocooned in their partner's presence and scent. But I'd never had anyone. Not once in my entire adult life. Until now. Until Edward entered my world. And that realization absolutely terrified me. With trembling hands, barely able to grip my phone properly, I called him, struggling desperately to control my voice and keep it steady. "Miles? Good morning. I was just thinking about you. I can't see you today," I said quickly, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to sound normal. "Why? What happened? Are you all right?" His voice immediately filled with concern, sharp and worried. "Just please, trust me on this. Stay away from me. Don't come anywhere near my apartment." The desperation in my tone was painfully obvious, even to my own ears. "Miles, you're frightening me. Tell me what's happening." I hung up abruptly, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I knew with absolute certainty that if Edward came near me, especially during my heat, I wouldn't be able to control myself. My omega biology would take over completely, demanding that I claim him, beg him for things I wasn't emotionally ready for. I didn't want our relationship built on physical need and biological imperatives. I wanted it to be real, genuine, chosen consciously. I locked myself inside my apartment, pulling all the curtains closed tightly, turning off every light, and pressing ice packs against my forehead and neck. Anything that might provide even temporary relief from the fever building inside me. But Edward's scent haunted my mind relentlessly. Cedarwood, rain, and that addictive alpha musk that made my body ache with longing. Every cell in my body screamed for him, biology demanding what my rational mind fought desperately against. Hours crawled by in absolute agony. The cramps intensified progressively. Fever climbed higher and higher, and crushing loneliness made everything worse. Then my doorbell rang insistently. "Miles, open this door right now." Edward's voice came through, firm yet somehow gentle simultaneously. "Go away," I shouted, though my voice came out weak and broken. "Please, Edward, just leave me alone." "I'm not leaving. Not when you're clearly suffering." I can hear the pain in your voice, even through the door. "You don't understand what's happening." Tears streamed down my flushed cheeks. "I understand perfectly." His voice softened considerably. "You're in heat, and you're alone, and you're suffering needlessly. Let me help you, Miles. Please." "No." My chest felt like it was being crushed. "If you come inside, I won't be able to control what happens. My omega biology will completely take over. She'll want things I'm not ready for emotionally. She'll beg you for things that will ruin everything we're carefully building between us. She'll want me, need me," he said gently, with complete understanding rather than judgment. "Miles, I'm standing here because I genuinely want to be, not because of biology or omega alpha dynamics. Because I truly care about you and I can't stand knowing you're suffering when I could help. I crawled to the door painfully, my entire body trembling violently, fever making everything blurry and disconnected. Edward, please understand. I'm trying to protect what we have, what we're becoming to each other. Open the door, Miles. Let me take care of you properly. I promise solemnly I won't do anything you don't explicitly want. I'll be respectful and gentle. I'll simply be here. That's all. Just presence and comfort. Slowly, painfully, fighting against every screaming instinct in my body, I unlocked the door with shaking fingers. When Edward stepped inside, his scent hit me like a physical wave, providing instant relief and instant danger simultaneously. My omega side roared to life inside me, demanding and desperately needy. Don't come any closer, I warned desperately, backing against the wall defensively, even though every single cell in my body screamed the opposite. Closer, touch him, claim him, need him now. Edward stopped immediately, respecting my clearly stated boundary without question. But he quickly removed his jacket and carefully tossed it toward me. What are you? My scent, he explained softly, kindly. It will help calm your omega side significantly. Hold the jacket close. Imagine I'm there beside you but safely, without any pressure or expectations. I picked up the jacket with shaking hands and pressed it desperately against my face. His scent enveloped me completely. God, it felt like oxygen after drowning, like water in a desert. My body relaxed slightly, cramps easing just a fraction, fever dropping minimally but noticeably. Thank you, I whispered, tears of relief sliding down my burning cheeks. Edward moved carefully toward my kitchen, maintaining respectful distance the entire time. I'm making you soup right now. Hydration is critically important during heat, and I'm getting pain medication that's specifically heat safe. You don't have to do any of this. I want to, he said firmly, his eyes meeting mine across the room with absolute sincerity. You kissed me when I was nothing, homeless, rejected by everyone, broken and alone. Now it's my turn to care for you, to show you that I deserve the kindness you've given me. Fresh tears rolled down my face. Not from physical pain this time, but from overwhelming emotion. I'm terrified, Edward, I admitted in a whisper. Of what? He asked gently while carefully stirring the soup. Of you. Of this. Of falling completely for you and losing myself in the process. He poured soup carefully into a bowl and approached, but stopped several feet away, maintaining respectful distance. I'm terrified too, Miles. Actually terrified. But more than the fear, I want this. I want you. I want us. Something real and genuine. What if I'm not enough for you? I said in a broken voice, all my insecurities pouring out uncontrollably. What if when this heat ends, you realize I'm just ordinary, boring and unremarkable? Not worth all this effort? You kissed a homeless stranger without any hesitation whatsoever, Edward said firmly, passionately. You saw me when literally nobody else was looking. You gave me humanity when the world rejected me. Even though my rejection was weak, the pain felt real. You are more than enough, Miles. You're absolutely perfect exactly as you are. I laughed weakly, messy and broken. I look absolutely horrible right now. Fevered, sweating, trembling uncontrollably. You look beautiful, Edward said seriously, without any hint of flattery. Vulnerable and real and wonderfully human. And I feel honored that you're allowing me to see this side of you. I clutched his jacket tightly like a lifeline. Stay with me. Please. Just stay. I don't want to be alone through this. Always. Edward promised without any hesitation. I'm not going anywhere. Not now. Not ever. That entire night, Edward sat nearby, maintaining safe distance, being endlessly respectful. He carefully fed me soup when I could manage eating, gently wiped my forehead with damp cloths, and sometimes simply sat quietly beside me, silent, steady, comforting beyond measure. He read books aloud when I felt restless, told stories when the pain became unbearable, and held conversations when I desperately needed distraction from my body's demands. And most importantly, he never once took advantage of my vulnerable state, never crossed boundaries, never applied pressure. When morning finally arrived and my heat subsided into exhaustion, I realized something profoundly important. I was completely, helplessly, desperately in love with Edward Sterling, not because of his wealth, Not because of his power or status, but because when I was at my most vulnerable, most needy, most completely exposed, he chose to protect me instead of using me for his own satisfaction. And that changed absolutely everything between us. On the 5th day, reality crashed back brutally. Edward and I had carefully decided to date publicly, slowly, honestly, with complete transparency. No hiding our relationship, no shame, no pretending we were just friends. But when the media somehow discovered that Sterling Enterprises' elusive, powerful CEO was dating an ordinary coffee shop barista, complete chaos erupted across every platform. Headlines exploded across newspapers and online portals within hours. Billionaire CEO dates barista. Gold digger or genuine love? Edward Sterling's mystery Omega. Who is Miles Blake? From rags to riches. Omega catches CEO in elaborate scheme. My phone buzzed non-stop with hundreds of messages from complete strangers. Some were supportive and kind, but most were viciously, cruelly hateful. You're obviously using him for money. Everyone can see through you. He'll get bored of you within a week. You're absolutely nobody. You're not worthy of an alpha like him. Know your place in society. Gold digger trash. Hope you choke on his money. I threw my phone against the wall, frustrated and deeply hurt by the relentless cruelty. I can't do this anymore. I can't handle this constant pressure and judgment. Edward immediately pulled me into his arms, protective, grounding, solid. Yes, you absolutely can. We're together in this, remember. You and me against everyone. Their toxic opinions don't matter at all. But they're completely right, I said, my voice breaking painfully under the weight of doubt. I am ordinary, just a coffee shop worker with no special skills or connections. You're a billionaire CEO who runs a massive empire. This entire situation is absurd. Society is right to question us. This relationship is completely impractical. That's complete nonsense. Edward said firmly, almost angrily. Total garbage. Miles, I don't love you because of any extraordinary status you hold in society. I love you because you're genuinely real in a world full of fakeness. You're kind when cruelty is easier. You're honest when lying would benefit you. You saw me when I was literally nothing. I froze completely, breath catching sharply. You just said love again. Out loud. He looked directly into my eyes. No hesitation, no fear, no uncertainty. Yes, I did. I love you. Shamelessly, desperately, completely. And I'll announce it to the entire world if you're comfortable with that level of public attention. My heart nearly stopped beating. Edward, but at that exact moment someone pounded aggressively on my door. When I cautiously opened it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. 50 Omegas stood crowded in my hallway. The exact same 50 who had rejected Edward when he'd pretended to be homeless. What the hell is this? I said, shocked and angry, blocking the doorway defensively. One Omega, tall, elegant, wearing obviously designer clothes. Clearly wealthy, stepped forward confidently. We heard Edward is dating someone now. We wanted to apologize personally. Apologize? I said suspiciously, disbelief coloring every word. For what exactly? Be specific. Yes, another Omega said with an overly sweet, completely fake smile. We were absolutely wrong to reject him so harshly before. We understand now how amazing, successful, and perfect he truly is as an alpha. The third Omega added dramatically, we were confused and scared. So young and foolish. But now we're ready to give him the proper chance he deserves. Edward appeared behind me, his face hard and cold, pure CEO expression. Powerful. Intimidating. Commanding. You rejected me when I had nothing. When I was vulnerable, dirty and desperate. Now you suddenly want me back specifically because I have everything. The first Omega produced fake tears expertly. It's not like that at all, Edward. We genuinely want what? Edward interrupted coldly. Genuinely want my bank account. My social status. My business connections. Let's be completely honest about motivations here. We want to be with you romantically. A fourth Omega said desperately. To give you the love you truly deserve. Real, lasting love. I felt physically sick. Everything about this was completely fake, disgusting, transparently manipulative. I grabbed Edward's hand firmly and said clearly, loudly, he already has someone. Me. And unlike you opportunistic parasites, I wanted him when he had absolutely nothing to offer materially. The omegas scanned me from head to toe, judgmental, dismissive, openly cruel in their assessment. The first omega laughed condescendingly. You're just a temporary phase, a novelty that will wear off quickly. Edward needs someone matching his caliber and status. Someone actually worthy of his position. And you believe that's you? I challenged directly, stepping forward despite my fear. Better than a nobody barista playing dress-up in a billionaire's world, she said venomously, poison dripping from every word. Edward's grip on my hand tightened protectively, almost dangerously tight. Miles is not nobody. He's the person who unconditionally accepted me when you all literally spat on me. Who gave me humanity and dignity. Who loved me without any expectations or conditions. He's 1,000 times better than any of you in kindness, in character, in everything that actually matters in life. But surely, get out, Edward commanded dangerously in his full CEO voice. All of you, right now. And if you ever attempt to hurt Miles again, threaten him, or even contact him, I will personally and systematically destroy each of your family's businesses. I will socially ruin you beyond repair. I will legally devastate you until you have nothing. Do you understand me? The omegas looked genuinely scared now, finally recognizing Edward's power and influence on full display. Slowly humiliated completely, they retreated, shooting hateful glances in my direction as they left. When the door finally closed, I hugged Edward desperately, tight, needy, overwhelmingly grateful. Thank you, I whispered shakily. Thank you for defending me so fiercely. Always, Edward said, holding me even tighter. Miles, I want to officially publicly claim you as mine. I want everyone to know you belong with me. What do you mean by that? I pulled back slightly, confused. He reached into his pocket and extracted a small velvet box. My breath stopped completely. It's not an engagement ring, Edward quickly clarified, opening the box carefully. Not yet. I know we need more time together first. It's a promise ring. A promise that I'm exclusively, completely yours. That you're exclusively, completely mine. That we're together against the entire world. No matter what society says, what media prints or what jealous people throw at us. Inside sat a simple but elegant silver ring. Understated, beautiful, deeply meaningful. Tears filled my eyes as Edward carefully, reverently slid the ring onto my finger. I love you, Edward Sterling. I finally said confidently, truthfully, without any reservation. Completely and genuinely. I love you too, Miles Blake, Edward said emotionally, his voice thick with feeling, more than I ever thought myself capable of loving anyone. And we kissed slow, deep, real, and filled with promises. Promises of forever. 6 months passed in what felt like both an eternity and a single breath. Edward and I built our life together carefully, intentionally, messy and imperfect, but beautifully, wonderfully. We ignored society's cruel judgments completely. We blocked the media's invasive stories, systematically, and we absolutely satisfyingly ignored those jealous 50 omegas who occasionally still tried to cause problems. We found our rhythm naturally. Edward went to his office each morning. I continued working at the coffee shop because I genuinely enjoyed it, and evenings we spent together. Sometimes at his luxurious penthouse, sometimes at my modest apartment. The location never mattered. Being together was what counted. Today we stood at Hope House's official grand opening ceremony. The shelter Edward had built, inspired by our story, by that first kiss we'd shared. The shelter was fully functional now, thriving beyond our initial expectations. Homeless alphas and omegas arrived daily, happy, hopeful, grateful for a second chance. They received proper meals, safe beds, comprehensive medical care, and most importantly, job training and restored dignity. You created this, I said to Edward, squeezing his hand proudly while watching people smile genuinely for perhaps the first time in months. We created this together, Edward corrected gently, squeezing back. Your kindness inspired me fundamentally. You showed me what true humanity looks like. I smiled, feeling emotional. I still can't believe that homeless alpha I randomly kissed turned out to be a billionaire CEO. Life is incredibly strange sometimes. Edward laughed, genuine, free, happy in a way he never had before meeting me. That laugh that didn't exist in his life previously. And I still can't believe an ordinary, beautiful omega thought I deserved kindness when I was literally nothing. You changed my entire life completely, Miles. You're not that special, I teased playfully, bumping his shoulder affectionately. Oh really? He pulled me into a quiet corner of the shelter and kissed me softly, lovingly. How about now? Changed your assessment? Okay, maybe you're slightly special, I admitted, smiling against his lips warmly. We both laughed, light, happy, completely content with our lives. But then suddenly a familiar scent drifted past. Cedarwood and rain. I looked around confused. Edward stood right beside me, so it couldn't be him. Then I spotted another alpha at the entrance. Young, genuinely homeless, judging by his appearance. Muddy clothes, exhausted eyes, but his expression held something precious. Hope, desperate, fragile, beautiful hope. Excuse me, he said hesitantly, approaching our staff members nervously. Do you really have food here? Shelter? I've been rejected everywhere else I've tried. Everyone turns me away. My heart ached painfully with recognition. This wasn't Edward, but this person genuinely deserved kindness, help, humanity, compassion. I glanced at Edward. He nodded with understanding, encouraging me, visibly proud. I walked over to the alpha and said warmly, genuinely, yes, absolutely. Come inside with us. We'll take complete care of you. Food, shelter, safety, medical attention, everything you need. Someone rejected you, but we never will. Everyone deserves kindness, dignity, and a genuine fresh start. The alpha looked completely shocked, tears welling in his tired eyes. Really? You're not joking or being cruel? Really? I said confidently, meaning every word. This place exists specifically for people like you. Welcome home. He nodded gratefully, emotionally, and walked inside with our staff members. Finally safe after who knows how long on the streets. Edward hugged me tightly, lovingly. I'm incredibly proud of you, Miles. You did exactly what you did for me. Showed kindness without judgment or conditions. You taught me that lesson, I said softly, resting my head against his chest contentedly. That people aren't defined by status, money, or appearance. They're defined by their heart, their humanity, their capacity for kindness. He kissed my forehead tenderly, reverently, and in that perfect moment, surrounded by people who were broken but actively healing, who were lost but finding direction and purpose, I realized something profound. Home isn't just a physical location, not bricks and walls and addresses. Home is where you're unconditionally, genuinely, completely accepted, where you feel safe and loved and valued for exactly who you are, flaws and all. And for me, home existed in Edward's arms. Always would. Edward took my hand gently and asked, "Ready to go home now?" I looked into his eyes, gray, warm, filled with love, and smiled with complete happiness. I'm already home, Edward. Wherever you are, that's where my home exists. And truly, in that moment, surrounded by hope and second chances and new beginnings, we were both finally completely home. Together, forever. The homeless alpha who'd been rejected 50 times had found his home. And the omega who'd kissed a stranger had found his forever. Our story had come full circle, from that dark alley where everything began, to this bright shelter where we helped others find their own new beginnings. Edward pulled me close, and I knew with absolute certainty that this was exactly where I belonged. Not in his penthouse or my apartment. Not at the coffee shop or his corporate office, but right here in his arms, building something meaningful together.